Today on Comm Talk, we talk about the debatable Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Captain, we have a proximity alert with the planet Geekery. We are approaching collision.
Quicks, get somebody on the comms, enter in the security code.
257. Security code accepted.
Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to episode 25 of Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, the YouTube show from a couple of devoted geeks that are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. I am Celeste, and with me is...
Dallas!
As you're listening to this podcast, please feel free to interact with us. Send us your thoughts on what we're saying via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us by simply looking up Geek Devotions. Do us a favor and leave a review on iTunes, leave a comment, and we'll interact with you on our social media. Perhaps you can be our next Devoted Geek of the Month.
Celeste, this is the first official podcast of Geekmas 2017. Are you excited?
Yes.
What is Geekmas?
It's Christmas with geeks.
And what are we doing?
That wasn't the answer he was looking for. We are devoting our Extra Tuesdays, our Geek Devotions, and our Comm Talks for the entire month of December to Christmas.
Yes, we're not just that, but we're looking at the stuff that's kind of on the fringe sometimes, or some things are kind of mainline, but kind of different things, such as today's topic, the debatable Die Hard.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about things we liked about it, things we didn't like about it. And then we're also going to discuss whether or not we think it's a Christmas movie. So I hope you guys stick around to the end to hear our views on that. That being said, I want to remind everybody that at the time of this recording, which is Sunday, December 3rd, we have the Iron Geek Shift finals going on our main Facebook page. Look for Geek Devotions. And it's come down to the... Our friend who is Australian, the Aussie, the star-traveling Aussie, versus the time-traveling, what I put him as? Time-traveling Triforce chef. And so, it's pretty cool. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. Their secret ingredient was Thanksgiving leftovers. The Australian was interesting.
Because he had to first figure out how to make Thanksgiving.
But he's really cool. So go vote, check them out, and let us know your thoughts on our main Facebook page. That being said, let's get into the meat of today's discussion. And that is Die Hard. So we're going to start on high notes, positivity. Celeste, what did you like about Die Hard?
Besides pretty much the whole movie?
Yes.
Okay. I really appreciate Bruce Willis's acting. So up until the point where I had seen this movie several years ago for the first time, and then again recently for the second time, I had never really seen old Bruce Willis stuff, like when he was young. So I'm going, this makes a lot more sense as to why he acts the way he acts.
How so?
Well, he kind of has the forget about it atmosphere about him. And so, like, in some movies, you're like, that just doesn't work. But in the majority of his movies, especially the stuff he started out with and the stuff that got him noticed, is really working for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, things I liked about it was not just the attitude, but what this movie is. We had watched a video a while back that said this, and I was like, it's so right, is that it's like the perfect time period for an action movie of this caliber.
Yeah. The
storyline was being trapped in a dadgum building that's, 30 stories in the air. I think it was like, did I say 40 stories up?
It's 30.
30? Okay, so they're like that far up in the air, and yet... like nowadays, we're like, oh, well, here's my cell phone, 911. Hey, there's a whole bunch of people here. You can do that kind of stuff. Back then, though, you weren't. So when they cut the power to the building, as far as the phone lines, all that stuff, you really were isolated. And that's something we just can't get with today's cinema. Like, you can't establish that and have it take place today.
Yeah, it always has. If that happens, it has to be set in the past because everybody has cell phone. I mean, you can not have signal, but I mean, you can just run over to a few feet and you have signal again.
And the whole signal thing, the only way to really accomplish that today would be to set off a EMP, but then you've wiped out an even larger area, so you have all kinds of other issues going on.
So the cops already know there's a problem.
Exactly.
There isn't the problem of, oh, it's just a crank call.
So it was really perfectly set in place, and really, Bruce Willis, I appreciate that he is a flawed character.
Yeah,
you know, he's a man who he's there and he loves his wife, and he's just an idiot. You know, he's just like he doesn't know how to say the right things, he doesn't know how to do the right things, and so he puts himself in this stupid situation. Like there was the scene at the beginning of the movie where he's sitting there talking to his wife, and they're having a good moment.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, you know, I'd like you to come home, and the kids would like for you to stay. I would like for you to stay. I would like to spend Christmas with you. And then he screws it up by just going
his foot in his mouth.
Right. And then like when she leaves, he realizes, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? And so I appreciated that he is a flawed character, but he's working through his flaws to accomplish something, which is obviously save his wife and these people around him.
Yeah. I also appreciate that in that same video that was saying that it was set in the perfect time for this type of movie, for this setup, that they said that he was the character that you could relate to because he's just a regular guy. He's not Rambo. He's not some bodybuilder who can, you know, bench press a car. He's just a cop.
Right.
Who knows how things need to be done, and he knows that he has to get what needs to be done in order to save these people.
Right. And that's a true story. Now I want to add this into things that are liked about this movie.
Okay.
And this isn't my preference. I'm saying this on behalf of my mother.
Oh yes. yes.
So
Dallas's mom has a criteria
for what makes a good movie.
Any movie. It could be a romance. And this needs to be in it.
This needs to be it. And that is simply this. It has to have a good headbutt.
Not a weak headbutt, but a good headbutt.
Good headbutt. And this does. Growing up, we watched these movies, and like I grew up watching Die Hard and Lethal Weapon and all these really cool action movies. And you would think like, yeah, that was your dad. No, my mom loves these movies. And she's the one that set up those criteria. It's like, if it doesn't have a good headbutt in it, it's not worth watching. It's not a good action movie. And so this has a good headbutt. And so my mom likes this movie.
To the point of where you can, talking about his mom, when we go to see movies, if there's not a headbutt, we don't necessarily recommend it to her. But if there is, we're like, oh yeah, you need to see this.
So I just want to throw that in there. And
it's a good headbutt movie.
All right, so let's switch it up and let's talk about then things that we necessarily don't like or we didn't really care for about this movie.
You want to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay. I didn't care for the random scene. You know which one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, the front end where the couple were
caught
doing
in promiscuous
situations. Yeah.
That I feel like could have been done without. It didn't necessarily have any bearing on the movie itself to show as much as they did. They could have accomplished the same effect with less skin.
Absolutely. And that is one thing as we pointed out with this movie is that it is rated R.
It is not a kid's movie, guys.
At all. And there's some stuff in there that I'm just like, that's just not necessary to have. And and back then, you kind of saw this a lot back in the 80s. Some of that was it. I mean, that you saw these things happen a lot in those type of action movies that were rated R. Again, we had to be clear, this is an R-rated movie. And so there were a lot of things like that I didn't care for, that I thought didn't add to the story. It'd be one thing if these things were adding to the story, but they don't. They're just completely unnecessary. It's just like random curse words that just didn't make sense to be thrown in there.
Because there was some of that. Now, let me say this. If it's not a movie that has a Christian in it, they're not portraying a Christian, it makes sense for there to be cussing because the world cusses. The world does not have a clean mouth.
Right.
But at some points you're right. It wasn't necessary. It was over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's some aspects about that I don't care for at all. And that's one reason why I wouldn't necessarily recommend this movie to everybody who's like, hey, I want to watch. No, you don't need to watch this. This isn't you're not mature enough to handle this, or maybe it's just you're at a place in your life where you don't need to watch. And that's something that needs to be understood. Is this isn't a movie that I'm going to watch all the time, because if this is something I consume constantly,
there's a problem.
There's a problem. It's gonna affect my walk with God. So I would say that I didn't really care for the scene where Hans Gruber was face to face with John McClane. And when they're in the lobby and John's like interrogating him, he's like, "What's your name?" And he's like, he goes, Clay. What, Bill. And I didn't care for it because the accent wasn't covering anything.
No, it really
wasn't. It
wasn't.
was stupid. Now, from the way the scene plays out, John kind of figures out you're faking it. You're not who you claim to be. And I don't know if they play it off as because of the accent or because of, the interrogation aspects. But it was weak. I was like, why? It just wasn't a very good scene for me. I feel like Alan Rickman could have done a lot better with that scene. Unless that's what they were going for, was him just really sucking at pulling off an American accent.
See, and I think that they were purposely going for him sucking an American accent, because I want to say I've heard Alan Rickman do an American accent, and he rocked it. I could be wrong. It could be a different actor I'm thinking of, because I can't even remember which movie I'm contemplating. But, I mean, I feel like that it was on purpose. It was as a German bad guy that this was the character's take on an accent.
Right, absolutely. So that's something I just didn't care for. There were a couple small things like that where like, some of the acting is a little over the top, but some of it was just so spot on. You're like, this is such a good movie. So it's hard to complain about some of those elements
because they are so small.
I did want to, and again, it's the actor, the character, and I hated the character that was the smug guy who he was hitting on McClane's wife the entire time.
The guy who was doing illegal activities the whole time?
Yes, that guy. He was the right amount of smugness. You're like, shut up. Go away. I don't like you. Like, I just cringed every time he was on screen. I was like,
oh. Supposed to, though.
I know. It's one of those things like, I wish this character was never there, but I know that's why the character's there. So
he is there for you to hate him.
Right. I also don't think they did enough with the news anchor. It was such a weird side story that went on with that news anchor, where and I know he was there simply as a plot device to increase the intensity at the end of the movie, but I was like, I feel like they needed to flesh that out more.
Well, can I just say that I was so proud when his wife, what was it, Holly?
Yeah.
When Holly decked the news guy.
Right?
Because I'm like, you went into her home, you woke up her babies, you told them their mama and daddy were in danger, and then you put it on camera.
Yeah.
No, sir. You're going to get your nose broken.
So
I was like, yeah, mama, go.
Well, those are the things that we liked and didn't like. We want you guys to do us a favor and let us know your thoughts of what you liked and didn't like about Die Hard. Send us a message. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave it in the comment section down below. But after this brief commercial, we're going to get back. We're going to be talking about some redeeming properties of this movie. And we're also going to talk about whether or not this is a Christmas movie. See you guys very soon. Are you a new business or ministry and need help getting your message out? Are you a budding artist who needs help sharing your passion with the world? Need help creating a social media presence that's impactful and represents who you are, but can't afford to have someone else run it for you all the time? One of my passions is to help people establish a social media presence so they can reach others with a message that encourages and changes lives. Not only do I want to help you create it, but I want to give you the skills so that you can maintain and grow your online presence. I offer a variety of services from graphic design to creating a social media campaign to consultation. If you're interested in my help, email me at geekdevotions@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, and we are back. Now it is time to discuss what we think are the redeeming properties of this movie. What makes it worth watching and better and potentially even spiritual. Mm-hmm. So Dallas, why don't you start us off?
Well, the one thing that I really appreciated at the end of the movie was you had this moment with John when he's shot up practically. His feet are bleeding out, and he's talking to Al, the police officer who's outside, and they're talking about their family and all this other stuff. And in this moment, you see John McClane realize he has waited too long to really appreciate who his wife Holly was. And it was one of those, I appreciate that aspect. Again, what I talked about earlier about him being a flawed character, how he wants to do right, but he screws it up. But you really see that happening at the end where he goes, I waited too long to take care of my wife, to be the man she wanted me to be there to support her. And so that's one of the things I really did appreciate. And I feel like that could be pulled out of the movie is simply the fact that we need to appreciate the people in our lives right now where we're at. Stop waiting for the junk to hit the fan, because it always happens. Whenever something happens that's bad, all of a sudden we have so much appreciation for the people around us that we're losing and that's going bad and going south. And we need to stop waiting for those moments. And I don't think people do it on purpose. We just get busy with life, and then God allows those moments to shake us and bring us back to reality to understand, hey, something needs to happen. People need you to be there for them and be there with them. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of my thing that I pulled out of it for the most part, is that don't wait. Let somebody know that you love them, that you care about them.
So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I liked the storyline with Al, where he was talking to him in that same scene that you were talking about. He's talking to him and he says, well, why are you a beat cop? Aren't you on the beat? Why are you at a desk? Because Al's character had mentioned that he was a desk cop.
Jockey.
Desk jockey. Thank you, because I couldn't remember the word. I was like, there was a word, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And he says, I shot a kid by accident. Mm-hmm. And explains that it wasn't intentional. It was the kid had a toy gun that looked like a real gun, which we've seen happen. Mm-hmm. Sadly, more often than it should. But, so it was talking about the effect on him, the fact that he put himself behind the desk because he couldn't handle the possibility of taking someone else's life. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't train me how to handle the guilt. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the movie, of course, he shoots the bad guy who should have already been dead. But we'll leave that alone. That should have been under my dislikes. And it's kind of he's now able to be who he's supposed to be and to function in the role that he needs. Mm-hmm. Not saying we don't need desk jockey cops that sit behind desks, but he's able to do what he's good at and what he loves, because you can tell throughout all of this that he's really good at his job. Mm-hmm. So he's no longer allowing that fear of messing up to keep him from doing what he needs to do. Right.
Absolutely. And that's something that I think we all struggle with. You know, we find ourselves where we've made a mistake, and we more times than not allow the mistake to cripple us. Yeah. I think it's a response I've seen in some people not responding appropriately to mistakes. So some people make mistakes like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, and they continue just to do harm and foul to people without really caring. And so because I think some people have seen that abuse, they swing the other way, and they're just like, I don't want to screw up again.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate the responsibility and the thought behind it. But at the same time, God hasn't created us to live in fear. Mm-hmm. You know, we mess up. Okay, God, forgive me. Get back up and go on.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, cool. Well, next aspect we're going to talk about, the final one, the most highly debated one, the one that you, dear listener, have probably been standing around going, when are they going to get to the subject at hand? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not?
It is.
Celeste, why do you believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
Well, it's not. It's not just because it's set at Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
They use the fact that it was a Christmas party. They use the subtle decorations. They use the Christmas carols to slowly to interweave between the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't remember when it was, but they did an overtly happy Christmas song during a time frame when it was like gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what the heck is happening? So they played with that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it made it a Christmas movie for me.
So is that it? The Christmas music, is that what makes a Christmas movie?
I didn't say that's what it made a Christmas movie. I just said it's what makes this movie a Christmas movie.
Ah, okay. I understand that.
So it was the intentional putting of things that were Christmassy.
Right.
If it hadn't been for that, if it had just been he's in California for Christmas, and there hadn't been the use, even if there had just been the decorations, if there hadn't been the use of the music and the talking of it being Christmas, and because even the bad guy goes, it's Christmas, it's the time of miracles.
Right.
Like, this was a interwoven...
Be of good cheer.
This was an interwoven theme.
Right.
So it was not the predominant theme, but I do think it is a Christmas movie because it was part of the subplot.
Right. And I'm inclined to believe the same way. It was such a prominent subplot. I mean, he's there for a Christmas party. It opens up with some Christmas style music. You have Christmas music throughout the entire thing, real subtly interlaid, and the ending was Christmas music. One of the first bad guys that we see eliminated by John, he ties him to a chair, puts a Santa Claus hat on, and then writes, "Now I have a machine gun, ho, 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 ho," and sends him down the elevator. I mean, you see elements of Christmas all the way through. And to be honest, it ended on a high note. Like you felt good at the end of this movie. I feel like that's something about Christmas. Like, Christmas movies, you're supposed to feel good in some fashion or another.
Yes.
And I feel like that this movie, you walk out going, I feel good about life. You feel happy.
Even though hundreds of people just died.
Well, not hundreds of people. Only like 12 bad guys. That's the only people who died. And one dude who was a jerk.
Well, yeah.
And a couple FBI guys. This list is growing. But not hundreds of people.
We should just stop talking now.
But it was. I mean, you walked out going, you felt good about this movie, which is a magic that I think that the 80s encapsulated.
Yeah.
You had all these buddy cop movies and all these other things. You're just like, at times it was cringy in the 80s, but you always felt good at the end of the movies. And I feel like this eliminated the cringe. Yeah. If there was a cringy moment, they capitalized on it to make fun of it.
Yeah.
And you walked out going, this was a fun movie. I feel good about life after watching this. And I feel like that is the Christmas spirit.
What moment are you talking about that was cringy?
They had all the stereotypical tropes of a Christmas party stuff at the beginning of your like, and you see John going, all right, here we go, you know?
Yeah.
And so...
Okay, I see what you're talking about.
So that's my thought process. I think it is definitely a Christmas movie.
There we go.
So, guys, we want to know your thoughts. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Leave the comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave it in the comment section on the YouTube video. Or send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Search for Geek Devotions. That said, Celeste, tell our amazing listeners what's coming up next week.
I'm so excited. We are doing Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think there will be any debate on if that's a Christmas movie.
That's pretty debated.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But it's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes, but it's Halloween. And we will get into this conversation next week because...
No. Just no.
Well, guys, thanks so much for taking time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you love this episode, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It's all very much appreciated.
Until next Sunday, stay devoted.
Peace and love. Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
So is Nightmare Before Christmas.